Right-wing media seized on a moment at the G7 summit yesterday involving President Biden. The Twitter account, RNC Research, which is managed by Donald Trump's campaign, shared a clip which appeared to show President Biden wandering off from other world leaders before the Italian prime minister comes over to alert him about a group photo. That moment is also on the front cover of today's New York Post with the headline, "Meander in Chief." But these photos and the clip you just saw don't show the full context of what was happening. Here's a look at a different angle from that event after a skydiver landed in front of the president and other leaders. President Biden turns to his left where there are troops. The president appears to say something to them and give them the thumbs up before he's tapped on the arm by the Italian prime minister. So this is the kind of thing that gets amplified. You have an organization like the New York Post, many others that picked it up that way, delivered to them right from Trump's campaign with no context, no double checking it, no looking at very widely available different angles to tell the truth.
I mean, come on, they know.
Instead,
listen,
to use this.
They know exactly what they're doing, Willie. I mean, they are pushing disinformation. They are taking a page. Look at it, talking to the guys that came in parachuting and then being called over for a group shot. But they know exactly what they're doing, and that we've seen it now. These cheap fakes that the RNC keep pushing, and the RNC are pushing the cheap fakes. Well, you know.
It's the pickup by news
sadly,
organizations.
Look, gives a thumbs up to the troops, which is actually it's just like on D-Day when they acted like he was just meandering off the stage and they cut out him shaking hands with members of the troops, just like what Macron was doing. So, it's one thing if the RNC does it and are sleaze bags about lying about what's actually happening with their cheap fakes. It's quite another when the New York Post does it. We saw the article of the Wall Street Journal, who, by the way, the Wall Street Journal talked about the entire meeting yesterday with Trump and members of the Senate and House, did not mention the fact that Donald Trump said that Milwaukee was a horrible city. So here we go. It's election season, and it's disinformation in the mainstream media.
Yeah, what Mika just laid out, that's the definition of disinformation. They know exactly what they're doing. They use an angle that told a different story than the one that actually happened to push a narrative. And it's a narrative we're seeing all over the place. It makes you wonder, is Donald Trump worried? Is this all they have? Is the economy so strong? Is inflation getting better? Are all these things going in the right direction? Is the abortion issue such a problem that they have to change the subject?
Yeah.
We've said it before. Yes, Joe Biden is old. He is old, and sometimes he talks slower and moves slower, as 81-year-olds do. Donald Trump is 78 today. If that's a concern of yours, that's totally fair. But play it straight. Show what's actually happening out there. Yeah. He was saluting the troops in that case. There was another video circulating the New York Post yesterday suggesting that President Biden awkwardly saluted the prime minister of Italy. You watch the video, it was less than a second. In the middle of a handshake, he puts his hand down like that. So they're trying aggressively, and let's be clear, RNC Research is run by Donald Trump's daughter-in-law. She runs the RNC, and they're funneling that straight into the New York Post, onto Fox News, and apparently even into the Wall Street Journal.
The truth of that video shows that Joe Biden is really kind.
Yeah.
And wanted to talk to it's just unbelievable.
And give him the thumbs up.
Joining us, our troops. Joining us now, former U.S. attorney and an MSNBC contributor, Barbara McQuade. She's the author of the book, Attack from Within, How Disinformation is Sabotaging America.
Usually, Barbara, we talk about disinformation taking place online, websites that somehow go viral, or from communist Chinese controlling TikTok and them pushing algorithms one way or the other. This is just out and out on the front pages of newspapers now, and it's also on Fox News. This is the disinformation and the constant lies that, in the end, benefit Joe Biden because they lower expectations for the debate. But it's still disinformation.
Yeah, in fact, this reminds me so much of something that shows up in the Mueller report, a tactic that Russia used in 2016. You know, I think when people hear the Mueller report, they think about what he did or did not find about Donald Trump. But a huge part of the Mueller report talks about Russian disinformation tactics. And one of the strategies in 2016 was to make Hillary Clinton look old, look sick, look like she lacks stamina. That was one of the coordinated messaging points that Robert Mueller found was occurring between the Trump campaign and the Russian efforts to spew disinformation. And one of the themes this election cycle is that Joe Biden is too old to lead. And so everyone is seizing upon this. And it is a classic disinformation tactic to take a germ of truth. There is this video. He does look away, but as you point out, he is looking away to troops to salute them. But instead, if you edit it in such a way, you can make it appear that he fits this narrative, that he is slow, that he is wandering off. And so this is a tactic. I'm sure we're going to see it again and again. And I think the best thing that we can do is to prepare the American people for this false narrative.
Barb, it's interesting to me that disinformation is used in another way also, and it's to deflect other things that are going on. When you do this, then people don't notice. You know, it is interesting to me that yesterday, all but 2 Republicans in the United States Senate voted against protecting IVF. I mean, that is stunning. That is just unbelievable. Last week, they did the same thing on contraception. But because Trump was on the Hill, and because that got a lot of coverage, and because they had this tape that they could use on morning conservative TV that is not accurate as to what Joe Biden was doing, it has not even been mentioned. That should shake the foundation of this country, that the Republicans refuse to protect IVF yesterday. So talk about how disinformation is used to say, look over here, because if you look straight ahead, you're going to be shocked at what the Republican Party is doing.
Yes, you know, distraction is absolutely part of the game. And you will see leaders, including Donald Trump, including Vladimir Putin, inject outrageous things into the headlines in an effort to distract the public from things that are bad. You may remember that Donald Trump himself resuscitated the Colin Kaepernick kneeling controversy when he was facing criticism over his handling of a hurricane in Puerto Rico. It is, I'm going to say something outrageous in the news, something my supporters will say, yeah, look at that. And it'll get everybody talking about my latest outrageous statement and not this bad thing that I'm being criticized about in the news. It's a tactic that Putin has used in Russia. He'll say something outrageous about the LGBTQ community, for example. And instead of talking about some bad story in the news about him, instead suddenly everybody is talking about this outrageous thing that he said in the news. So in the same way, if there is a bad headline, we'll see it spewed out. This is also something, Claire, that we saw leading up to the election. Remember when the Access Hollywood tape came out? On that same day, that was the day that WikiLeaks released the stolen emails from the DNC because they wanted to get Access Hollywood out of the headlines. And so instead, they published accurate but stolen and certainly damaging email messages to own the headlines and get people talking about the palace intrigue in the DNC as opposed to the Access Hollywood tape. So it's a classic technique that we should be on the watch for.